bring that is probably different that maybe not a lot of other people would bring. So I grabbed my, this is just literally the way it sits on a shelf right next to the head of my lathe. This is my vacuum chuck. I made this a couple years ago. Simple, easy to do. Big thing is you gotta find a pump. If you know anybody who's got an oxygen concentrator, okay, that's all these are. You can get them off of eBay, $60, $70 on up, or you can spend, you know, $400 or $500 if you want a good gassed pump, but they're the same thing.
It's a vacuum pump?
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, one side is you know, pressure and the other side is vacuum, but it's great because I've got a bleed off valve and then a shut off valve here along with the gauge. This goes, like I said, I put this in there so it doesn't get dusty, but this goes right in the end of here that I put on my spindle on my lathe, so that, you know, this turns and everything, draws the vacuum through there. It's unbelievable. You can crush bowls with this if you're not careful, but I have made, well, in this box here, all kinds of, with plywood and PVC pipe, you can make a chuck for just about anything, or faceplate. They got a lot of these. I got the Beal wood tap. I've got a lathe that takes kind of a funny thread. It's yeah.
What is a vacuum chuck?
Oh, what is a vacuum chuck?
Yes, for the new people.
Okay. This will allow you to put something on your lathe, and it will hold it so you can turn it without having the tailstock holding it up.
Finish the back side.
Yeah. Bowls, finish the bottom of bowls. Works really well.
So
I
when
mean,
you put the vacuum, I used to be in this kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But, so you're rotating, you've got some, how do you seal that as it's rotating?
it's all right in here. There's a bearings in here that draws the vacuum through here. And then you obviously have to have a spindle, this hollow, that you can draw the vacuum through. But then sealed up, and that's the thing. I got the Beal wood tap, you know, this is a metric 33 by 1.5 thread, so that I threaded all these, and it just spins right on headstock, and I can put a bowl on here, or, and this craft foam stuff, you get it at Walmart. You can get, I don't know, 10, 12 sheets for a couple bucks. Cut them to any shape. The seal on here, okay, this is just PVC from Home Depot or Lowe's. Yeah. And anyway, it makes life real easy to finish bowls and so forth. I didn't bring the probably most important thing, and I didn't bring it because I thought that Stuart would bring his carving jig, but mine is on my carving jig that I copied off of Stuart. But we'll take, it has a thread on there from the chuck to the tailstock, so that you can unscrew that from the spindle on your lathe, then take and put this adapter on there, thread this onto your tailstock, move this up against the faceplate here or whatever jig, and it's perfectly centered. You don't have to mess around. Even though with the levers here, you can manipulate something around to get it centered, and then lock the vacuum on and turn. So anyway, I think I've got, well, it's less than $100 in here. In fact, there's the Frugal Wood Turner. He's got an ad in the AEW, American Woodturner Journal, in the back, and he has these all the time. But it's once you use it, you'll never go back. I mean, it will replace, you know, the big cold jaws and everything else that, you know, people struggle with sometimes. But if you haven't thought about a vacuum chuck, I'll be happy to answer any questions or talk with you later about it, but not hard to do. So that's just one thing that I know several people have made vacuum chucks in here, and I've had pretty good luck with them. So.
The club has one, and somebody was using it last Saturday.
Oh, really? I've not seen it used in ages.
Never used it before, first time. And he turned the base of a bowl, and it's perfect. Great job.
Great. So,
Yeah, Mike, the Frugal Woodturner sells a whole kit with everything, including that type of vacuum pump. And that's where he gets them. He gets them off those oxygen concentrators.
if you have a friend or family member or something that is COPD or CHF, that, you know, these DME companies don't, I'm sorry, durable medical equipment, or, I mean, congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, people who need oxygen, typically, when they no longer need them, like say a lot of the durable medical equipment, people don't really want those back, or they'll $15 or something. But if you get a hold of one, grab it. Literally, that's what I did here. And what was neat with this one came, the thing it was in, there were, for vibration, this is on springs. It doesn't vibrate at all, which is really pretty neat, and makes it really quiet. And like I say, don't use this all the time, obviously, but when I need it, it's on a shelf just right down from the head of my headstock of my lathe, and I put this together, and this worked great. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It's not fair. You need to put it someplace so when you want it, you can't find it.
Well, it has been covered with a lot of dust, and that's why there's plastic bags over it. But I got a whole lot of other homemade tools. Homemade lathe tools, by the way. I have parting tools up here, ultra thin parting tools, all kinds of stuff.
Tell us about the parting.
Oh, well, I stole Kevin's idea for it. All right, here we go. Don Grimes made this parting tool for me. I got it February 7th of 2015. Piece of bandsaw blade. Really, I mean, it was great. Thin, it was longer than this, but you know, you don't really want it very long. Anyway, that's all that's left of it. And you can't, you know, I can't go very deep with it, but whole length of it here is bandsaw blade, the steel. So I thought, what would be a way to make those so that you could get a hold of them and adjust the length and so forth? Well, Kevin came up with the idea of making the this kind of a handle, putting it in here like this. So this is just double stick tape. They're cold and really sticky, but so you can, all these blades are 12 inches long, but this way you can stick out as much as you need here, and you don't need to worry about grinding it down, you know. So, oh. So I stole Kevin's idea. I gave him one. But I've got a couple of different kinds of steel. I'm trying to find the best steel. The bandsaw blades don't hold an edge that well. Of course, this is not something that you use that often. These are perfect for making lidded boxes, especially like if you're making them out of a figured wood and you want the grain to line up. You're taking out just the minimum amount of material so that you can get that to line up, and they work great. Like I said, I wore this one down. But real easy to sharpen. To sharpen it, you just put this against the wheel, and the burr will form right on top. You can feel it, and that's what cuts, and goes right in. They're perfect. So anyway, if anyone's interested in need a thin or an ultra thin parting tool, I've got them. The bandsaw blade ones are a 32nd of an inch thick. I've measured them. These are made out of, Don took me down to the machine shop he used to be a part owner of, and these guys make all kinds of custom stuff. They use this 1095 steel to make scrapers for General Mills when they have great big huge rolls that they roll out cookie dough on and everything. Anyway, to clean off those rollers, they have these, this is scrap, what they use, but it's good steel. Real high carbon, it holds an edge well. It's, unfortunately, it will rust. That's why it's anodized. That's why it looks blue. But, you know, keep a little oil on or something and you'll be fine. Anyway, cannot find high-speed steel that thin anywhere. So that's the story on the parting tools. I made all kinds of stuff.
Mike, when you're cutting that, you have to take a double bite on that thing so it won't get stuck. You can just go right on through it.
Yeah. I mean, I've parted, you know, lidded boxes, you know, 4, 5, 6 inches. Yeah. You know, part them and then you got to hollow them out and everything, but it works great. The bandsaw blade, the 32nd of an inch, you can get drifting a little bit on it, so that you have to be real careful on how you drive it in. But it's doable. And what you're really only concerned about would be the outside part of it. What I've done too sometimes is take a hacksaw blade or coping saw blade or something, and you know, faster. You know, if I'm doing a big piece like that, to cut all the way through it, I'll go down an inch or so. Or and sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll just jam it in and it goes right through it.
I think a sawzall blade probably.
That if you're doing like an ash box or zebra wood or something, and you really want it to line up right, you know, the sawzall blade can be thicker than that. It's thicker than the bandsaw blade. Like I say, this is a 32nd. This is a 16th. Actually, it's just a little less than a 16th. And I've got some that I made long ago. They're these are just a little over a 16th, and these are not adjustable. These are early ones I made. Okay. I'm going to jump ahead to what the challenge for next month is going to be. Now, you can make, you know, all kinds of stuff. I mean, real simple things like a vacuum chuck, or real highly technical things like a mallet. This is one of the first things I made. This is sits on my bench. This is a piece of Osage orange, and you know, this is how it will turn, how it will age. So it will be a homemade lathe tool or some kind of woodworking tool that you make. It could be, like I say, a mallet or whatever. So that's going to be the challenge for next month. All right. I don't want to dominate all the time here, so I know there's a lot of other people that have brought some very interesting tools. And let's see what else everybody's got. If not, I've got more things I've made too. How you can make a sphere jig out of a hole saw blade. Anyway. What have you got, Bill? Oh.
I have some homemade hollowing tools. Some of back in, I'll have to take a look at the bottom of this, 2007, we made some, in the club, when we were down, we made these hollowing tools for small diameters. And this is a tool, Don Grimes got the tool steel, and we heated it up, took a temper out of it, took it to a vise while it was still red hot, bent it to wherever we wanted it, and after it got it bent, then we sharpened the end on it, ground it on the end, then we went back and reheated it, and then tempered it by getting it real hot and dipping it into water and retempering it. And this is the handle. It just got a simple set screw in it, and you just interchange these in and out. They are 3 different angles, Very simple, very good tool for doing intermediate. When you got a hole about this size, you can get into it. I mean, you can get clear back in here. You know how woodturners, how they always stick their damn finger or something. You know, but anyhow, you get a small hole like this. But if you want to really get some small stuff, we did these hollowing tools were made out of
Allen wrench?
what do you call it? You use set screws. Allen wrenches, yeah. Same thing. Took a temper out of it, bent them, ground them, and retempered them. And you can get down, here's an idea of what kind of small holes that you can get into, and you can get in there with this and hollow in there, okay? And you can make these, you know, I mean, you're not talking about any big expense here at all. I mean, this steel I bought from Harbor Freight or somewhere where I got some big long-handled Allen wrenches, and you can bend them to whatever degree you want them, and it works. You know, they're a simple tool. You can get them down into doing small diameters and that, and that's what I did. Like I said, these are all just homemade, and they work great. Hold a good edge, and this thing here is, I don't know whether anybody around here has ever turned. This is a Cadalba nut. It is hard. It's one of the hardest things you're ever going to get into to turn it, because they are, you know, they're really hard, and so it's just kind of interesting. This was a project, again, way back in the early 70s, early 2000s. So anyhow, that's my tools that I had to bring.
How do you heat those up?
Propane torch. Yeah, I use a propane torch. I was going to bring them, but there was too much. I've got some chucks that I've made that have the O-rings on them, where you got a big round plate that goes on the lathe, and then you got these different rings, different diameters to hold them against it. But it was too much for me to handle, so I just left it. But I was going to build a Longsworth chuck one time, and I never did get around doing that either. But anyhow, like I say, you can get a lot of these tools for little or nothing. And yeah. Thanks, Bill. You're welcome.
Well, this is based on a Coles chuck. I just bought one segment. I started off by just taking a 2-inch long bolt, some aluminum, and covered it with vinyl. Still not quite long enough. So I went to Metal by the Foot and got 1/2-inch aluminum rod, cut 6-inch and 4-inch sections, drilled both ends, tapped them, and in one end I put a stud so I can make these pretty long. And if I drilled this end a little deeper and tapped it a little more, I could put this in there and go out even farther. Sometimes I'm making something that's tall and small, so I can hold it with these, but there's a lot of leverage there. So you go out like this, and I wrap it with like the shrink wrap stuff.
Look this way.
I'll wrap it this way, and there's no leverage there, and it stays in place. Doesn't go flying off the jaws. I make these ornaments, and I start off with a little yogurt container. All my waste epoxy goes in that. Eventually, I have these. I turn them, hollow them. Sometimes I've got to do some more sanding and finishing. So it's just a simple 1/2-inch rod with nuts, cover them with electrician's tape, and I can do several at a time. Third thing is, I didn't bring it, but Woodcraft sells these little bottles that you can put a solvent in. Well, I always find myself leaving the lid someplace and not finding it. Found that the best thing to use is just a used glue container. Clean it out, put whatever solvent in it you want. It's cheap too.
Try to be quick about this eccentric. The aluminum inside turner arrangement I've brought in once before, so you've seen it. It's over there, but it works. And so this exercise tonight is an offset to make eccentric and concentric turnings. And of course, I thought it'd be nice to have a road map. You know, if you're going to do this, how do you want it? How big is it going to be? You're going to use double stick tape to hold it in place and mount it on your chuck like so. And then, of course, the interesting part of it is how are you going to cut the grooves? And since you've already mentioned Allen wrenches, if you take a dowel and drill a hole on an angle through the end, you can slip the head of the angle in and hold it just like you'd like to have it. And the trick is, of course, to get the sharpened part to the widest part so that you don't end up, dragging on the side of it. So I thought 2D is pretty neat, and if you turn it over, you can get, emblems. But let's do this in 3D. And I thought, that'll be interesting, how we do that. So first I drew up a 3D CAD model and said, that's going to be a challenge. And sure enough, it was. So this is a piece of black walnut that started out life as a 4x6 by 8-inch long piece of wood. First thing, chop off 15 degrees so that you can camp the thing. So when you're turning a foot, you're going to ultimately hold this on centers with your chuck. So you got to have a tenon here to grab, so you got to turn that. And you probably want to put a base on it, so that's the bottom part. And now this is just spinning. And on the other end of it, the center, live center is about a half inch or so from the edge of the face. So it's setting backwards like this. So you're going across the wood. And so the trick next is to then turn a little bit of a kind of a stem up here so that you can put your live center on that and hold your chuck. And then you say, I need a sphere. So you're going to turn a partial sphere with, approximating the actual curvature while this is spinning, right? So you can see you do that. And of course, if you do a nice job and you stand it, you can go to a vacuum chuck next. And you wouldn't want to put the grooves on quite yet because vacuum chuck won't do that. And so if you have a nice clearance here on your foot, a 5-inch vacuum chuck will let you center this so that it's rotating in this plane. Got that? And then you take out this inner sphere. And if you get that accomplished, you figure out how do I turn, like this is now going to be an inside turn, and we're going to put in the grooves. And you can use a parting off tool here on the bottom and try to keep your cuts more or less through the center so they're pitched. And if you do this right, you go just to the point that you reach your halfway point. So now then that you've got your inners all turned out in here, you go back to the chuck that you left on, the tenon you left on the end, right? Put it back on centers, and then you get the groove here. And this time, if you go just to center and a little beyond, you don't have any much sanding and cutting to do to get your spaces. And then you get almost done, and it blows up. I thought about bringing that, but I said, no, it looks pretty good, but it's still, you can see where the pieces went, And I did glue it back together. So, long story short, I call this creation the time catcher, because if you make one, it'll catch your time. So that's the story there.
What's the speed?
Just fast enough to cut smoothly. That's the last thing you need is a bunch of speed growing down here while you're whacking your fingers with this, and also trying to get the cuts so that you can control where you're cutting. And I wish I had made this first, but doing this with a parting tool, that's a little harder. So that's the story, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And I posted it on Facebook page, and we're about 100 views on it and requests for how do you do that. So I told you how to do it. So someday to try a challenge and make one.
The last question, how long did it take you to do that?
2 days.
Huh?
2 days.
Got it.
What is the famous saying? Speed is your friend until it's not.
So Anthony says speed is your friend, but not your lover. That's an Anthony quote.
I need to talk about my show and tell piece over there. When I started doing that Indian basket, and that was going to be a Navajo wedding basket, and it was a piece that you and I traded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the piece of maple, and I gave you a piece of walnut bowl blank. So anyway, I got real thin on that piece, and I got so thin that the center turned away. And so now what do I do? So originally I was going to try and fill the center with epoxy, and for 6 months I just could not figure out, was I going to really make a good piece? And probably many years ago, I ended up buying a bunch of metal spinning tools at auction, which happened to be Roger Lambie's tools. I'm pretty sure they were Rogers. And then later on, I ended up getting additional tools from Pete Sticklich. So I had a whole bunch of these tools. I knew I wanted to learn how to metal spin. And so then that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to try and figure out how to metal spin. And so I bought the and this goes back 6 months ago. I bought the CD. There's an Irish metal spinner by the name of Terry Teenan, I think. And so I watched and watched and watched. And he shows you how to make your own tools. So the first couple tools that he wants you to make, this is the first one. And he wants you to make it out of, this is metal spinning, and I'll get to it. I'll go fast. He wants you to use steel, which is 4140. So you go down to Metal by the Foot, and you want to buy 4140. And they say, we don't have 4140. We only have tool steel. So you have to buy this in tool steel, and then you have to take it to a place that can turn it into Rockwell hardness 33, which is equal to 4140. And I forget where I took that, but they did all my steel that way, so then you have to end up, yeah, you use a grinding stone, and you, believe it or not, you get this rounded, and then you polish it, and it goes in here 4 inches, and so I was wishing that Mike Erickson was here, because he likes to make his handles. He's a handle guy, and so anyway, I found a really, look here, it's coming off. The epoxy's not holding, but anyway, cool tool. So that piece of copper is spun with this tool, and the way that is done, and we've talked about it already tonight, right over here. You get the Beal system, and I happen to turn on a one-way lathe as well, and mine are M33. So basically, this is hard maple, and it's screws right onto my spindle, and so and I laminate it that way. It's not going to ever move on me. It's going to always keep this shape. But when you metal spin, you have to first turn your mold that you want to make. And so this was my very first one, And so I ended up spinning, this was an 8-inch diameter piece of aluminum. And I did. And I, you know, this piece should have been bigger, but, you know, when you try things the first time, you learn. And so anyway, I ended up having to do the same thing for the copper over there. And it turned out pretty cool. So
You start out with a disc, right?
a disc, a flat disc, yes.
Clamped between your mold and a tailstock.
Yes, and what I like to use on my tailstock is I've turned a piece of that white, what is that? That plastic that you cannot glue. High density plastic that kind of just fits snugly over a one-way tailstock. Okay, and then that you can see where that it kind of pressed into here too much on my first attempt. But basically, that's what you do, and so yeah, it's a flat piece, and then you have to put this a lubricant on there. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think I've changed. I originally put saddle soap on there. Saddle soap I don't think works really well. So the next stuff that I'm going to try, because I just used it on my hands the other day. Have you ever put on bag balm in Vermont? I mean, that stuff, you put it on right before you go to bed, it's still going to be on you when you wake up in the morning. It's slick. And, you know, you can try to wash it off, and it's just a good lubricant. So that's what I really want to put on here. And so anyway, yeah, it's interesting. The part that you just have to come up with a certain kind of shape, I think, and then use that in some sort of processing piece or manufacturing piece, I think. Because if you really want to get into it, I mean, One Way sells all the stuff. I ended up buying the tool rest and all of that sort of stuff. But anyway, this is my biggest tool.
You realize you're creating a problem.
What's that?
We got to put an X through wood.
So anyway.
How thick was that disc when you started? I mean, that's really stretched.
No, it's really not that stretched. It really isn't.
Was it like an eighth of an inch, or I mean?
I should have brought in a disc. It's not really that stretched that much.
Okay.
It's not. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's incredible.
I don't think I can talk as long as these guys have talked. Mine's pretty simple here, but real handy little gadget. You ever have to drill holes in a spindle for a chair, or you do some indexing and you want to drill holes around your outside? How do you hold your drill to do that? Well, you can buy that expensive drill wizard, but I found these little inserts, and they're designed to go in here, so you can put it on a spindle and drill. What I did, took a board and made a hole that I can insert these into, and then I turned it so when I put it in my banjo, it is at center. So then I can use those guides to drill through, and I'm at center. I can put my banjo to the outside if I've got a round piece and I want to index and put holes around the outside edge. I can put my drill in that fashion too. So I don't remember, I think I paid $9.99 for this drill guide kit for these little inserts, and they come in all different sizes here. So you can use your different drill bits, whatever you need to use.
So the same outside diameter will fit in there?
Right, they're all the same outside diameter. They look like sockets almost, but they all have different inside that you just put your drill bit through there and it slides right through and keeps you straight. Right, right. So you've got this in your banjo, and this is at the center point. So then you'd slide it wherever you needed it for the diameter of your piece. And then you index and drill and index and drill. Keeps you right on center. Then I made this the other day. I like these little one-way things. I think they're real handy. So if you're going to make a tool and you don't want to fuss with drilling and tapping your own, you can get that little one-way insert. It's upside down to the camera. You can get the one-way insert there. Just makes life a little easier. Sorry, I can't talk as long as everybody else.
Those come in different sizes. How many different sizes do they come in?
I think they come in 3 different sizes. That's what I've used this one for years and liked it. So I had some 3/8 inch tools I needed handles for. I started to make dedicated handles and said, why bother? I can flip them out that way and use different tools in them.
And these pop out. And
Just like I rounded the big one there, just imagine that as one of those needles
Okay.
with your grinder.
Rick, you want to put it there? So yeah, bring it up right now.
It's amazing. Don brought in a piece, I don't know, a year or so ago and everything. I was looking at it and I thought it had to take him weeks to, but needle scaler.
So I didn't didn't want I wanted the real soft texture on the front side, and so basically I just used your needle thing, and the way I controlled it was just like this. You know, I mean, I guess you could use a rubber band too if you want. You don't want these things kind of flying around. Get more control. But anyway, it just, you know, I just textured that whole back side. I think that helped for doing the patina. Because it on this side it's a rougher finish, and it's a much smoother, although it doesn't look like it, but it is when you do it.
That is beautiful.
So yeah, you can kind of see right in there, Effie, the kind of the texture. I mean, it just looks like it's an aged piece of copper.
Well, and it's random too, you know, and it's, like I say, with different shapes ground on the needles, you get a different, like the piece you brought in, I mean, there were like little circles, and then there were like pin pricks, and then there were round, like it was, you know, shot with a BB gun or something, you know, and then, but that's why I thought it took you forever to do.
What I was going to do prior to this meeting, and I just didn't get it done, is I was going to take the ends of these and grind the ends of them to look like deer hooves. And use 2 or 3 and try to get that deer hoof texture randomly, you know, on a band or something going around. So I didn't get it done, but I think it'll be pretty neat to do. So.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Man.
Well, I'm going to cheat. I have shown this massive, very highly complicated, modified screwdriver. This is just an old screwdriver I got at a estate sale for like $250, and wanted to try to make a captive ring tool. So you know what? There's nothing better than an old $2.50 screwdriver. So I started grinding off. Well, first I ground out the shape, and this is a hardly refined shape. I mean, I could make it more narrow at the end and do more detailed work there. And then sharpen the end and sharpen the facing tool, and made a couple of just goblets with the little rings around the end and things like that. So, $250, cheap. Be careful.
Those old screwdrivers are made out of pretty good steel, too.
They are. Well, I did not take the time to heat it up or bend it or anything. I just took an old Allen wrench that I had from a set. I have no idea why I needed an Allen wrench quite this big, but I thought I needed a hollowing tool and a piece of Bradford pear to, I really wanted, it was more effort of making the handle and seeing if it would work. I'm still refining the bottom to get it so that it doesn't want to roll over when I'm trying to hollow, but it works pretty well. I probably could help it a little bit and get if I tempered it again and get it to hold an edge a little better, but it works.
That's great. Anybody else? I'm sure Chuck's got something real interesting here. Oh.
Nothing that wasn't already done.
Is it?
This is same thing. This is with that new Carter thin parting tool. I did find that on these one-way they sell a little jig that makes the taper, which makes this go on really easy. It's like $1 from Packard.
Yeah.
Packard sells these, and it just makes that real simple. Other than that, I don't even know what that wood is. And this was one I made because I wanted something short, because I kept on running into the dust collector, and went down there to Metal by the Foot and just drilled it out and put a couple Allen wrenches into it. And then went down to Strausser and just got a piece of that hose that they sell by the foot. And the interesting thing is how you get that on. Hot water. And when it stops, you just kind of take a little thing in here
and run some more water and then move it down more. It works real fine. Don't microwave it. I have, well, I guess somebody's also done that one. That gets really hot.
Anybody else?
So there were some people talking about the Beal tool. I used it to thread these. Initially, I wanted a disc sander. So, and then when I was doing plates, I needed all sorts of different sizes depending on the plate. So I got a stash of them. They're an inch different diameters. Eventually, I bought this for the tailstock. So this is a live center that's threaded. And then I started making pieces like this, where you actually, sometimes the cone gets in your way, and then this is just angled, so it goes in there, and it's got a hole here. If I'm doing tops and I need space, the dowel rod fits right in that hole. So different uses of tools, and it's very easy just to thread something and then go ahead and make the tool. This was a tool for the cubes that I did the demo on last year. This was a piece, and made two of these. One went on the headstock, one went on this piece on the tailstock, and it's used for when you're doing a sphere. So you just clamp the sphere in between the two different pieces. So that was one thing. I couldn't remember if I brought in the Beal tool or not, but there's a lot of different things you can do with it as you figure out you need things. Then as far as a hand tool, this is a piece of high-speed steel. It's 2 millimeters thick, so I don't know, it's probably a 1/16 of an inch, I don't know, something around there. But the reason that I brought this in is I did the handle with multi-axes, so that instead of it being round, it's spherical. And so when you stick it on a table, it doesn't really roll off easily. I mean, obviously, you hit it hard enough, you can do that. The other thing that I did is I took 2 pieces of wood and a sliver of another sliver of wood, and I used double-sided tape and put the 3 together. I turned it and then pulled them apart, so I'd have 2 half circles that I could glue in here. So this thin piece of metal fits right down the center here. So you drill the hole, glue the pieces in, the metal fits right down the center of that. And then I put set screws in there so I can take this out. Now, I don't know what else I would do other than a parting tool, but if I come up with some other tool, same thing, I could take this off. Or if I wear it down like Mike does in 5 years, then I get another piece of tool steel. So those are 2 things. I really found, when I first started turning, I got into the threading with the Beal tool for my spindle size, and it's been really nice because a lot of different, you use it 3 times and then you don't need it. Well, I've got lots of scrap wood, so it was easy to thread and make the shape you want and then throw it out.
What'd you make, Don?
I stole ideas from Jack. He was teaching me how to do the goblets, and he's like, here's this little tool. And I was like, well, that's easy. I don't think I mastered it as well as he did. Just long drill bits and a handle and epoxy. So hold it in, push. So I have a cherry handle, and I believe it's spalted hackberry. And I'm a little upset because this is the prettiest piece of the 2 sticks I had. To start your hollow, and then you can pull it out from there. Not with this, but with a tool. That's it. Right. That's what we were using it for, is to mark the depth. So I can say, oh, I want it that far, and only push it in that much. So.
Anybody else? I've got one comment I'm going to make. This is kind of funny. True story. I've had this cheap Harbor Freight angle grinder for several years. You know, there's different schools of thought or different feelings about Harbor Freight tools. I think that their quality has really improved drastically over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. But the angle grinder works great. There was a cheap plastic handle that came with it, that you need here, really to hold it to be able to use the thing. Broke, fell apart and everything, so I didn't want to throw away a good angle grinder, so I made a handle for it. And this is metric threads, by the way. So yeah, but you don't just run down the hardware store. I thought it was 3/8, but it's 10 millimeters and 1.5 pit threads per inch. Anyway, now I can use my angle grinder, and I've got I left this on here. At the tool show, I've been trying to make some spoons and so forth, and Arbortech has this thing called a ball gouge. It goes right on here. Works slicker than, it's amazing how well this works. If you go use it like this, it really doesn't do anything the way this cutter is on here. You go at an angle like this, and if you get it like this, it would be really aggressive. But it hogs out. It's real smooth. It, doesn't tear out the grain or anything. But it's kind of fun using it. Anyway, my 2 cents on Harbor Freight tools. Okay. Why don't we take a break? Refreshments right behind me here. Don't forget to take a look at all of the silent auction items, as well as our silent art auction item done by Mr. McMahon here for this month.